Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished talking all about Game 4 for the NBA Finals. We also did a quick little preview of Game 5, where I said the Mavericks were going to lose in a tight one, and the Celtics would raise their 18th Larry O'Brien trophy to set a new league mark. Very exciting. But speaking of raising that trophy, we have to talk a little bit about the finals MVP. There are a lot of different options for the way that this could go here in this series. There's no clear number one. We'll take a look down the betting favorite list for the finals MVP for this series, and we'll talk about whether or not they deserve to be in there, who I think is going to win the finals MVP, and where this series is looking at for a future perspective. But before we get into that, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comment section. I will go ahead and talk about that as soon as I possibly can. Appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying here today, we are going to finish up our basketball coverage for the day here, talking a little bit about the NBA Finals MVP odds. It's been a very interesting final series as far as individual players go, right? Usually at this point in the finals, you kind of have a general idea of who is going to win the finals MVP or who is a front runner to win the finals MVP. But if you talk in this series about who deserves it and who is going to win it, you might get a consensus answer, but you're going to get a lot of answers from all over the place of who deserves it, who was the best player in these finals. There was no true, at least for me looking at it, there's no obvious true number one guy, at least for the Celtics, right? Because the Celtics like to play team basketball, and that makes this award pretty hard to give out. Now, if the Mavericks find a way to win this series, it's going to Luka, right? And I know there's some theories over there that say, hey, Luka should win it either way, and that kind of died down after Game 3 when he played horrendously defensively. But, either way, even with that blemish on him, it it there shouldn't be giving the MVP of the finals to someone that loses, especially in a 4-game, 5-game series. Now, do I understand it in a 7-game series that maybe comes down to an overtime game 7 or a buzzer beater game 7 and all these games are close? Yeah, maybe I do understand that. But this is not that kind of close series where we should even consider giving it to somebody on the other team. That being said, going through the top 5 or top 6 for odds to win Finals MVP right now, according to Sports Illustrated betting odds. At the bottom, at number 6 right now, they have Kyrie Irving, and I just kind of disqualified him at number 6 just because, despite how well he's been playing in these last 2 games, he was awful in the first 2 games. Horrendous the first 2 games. And he was probably the reason. I mean, he's not the whole reason, but he was a huge reason why the Mavericks weren't winning those first 2 games in Boston. He was so inefficient with the ball. He was super inefficient, offensively, and didn't support Luka, who needed that support, especially in game 2, which I do think they definitely could have won. That was a game where Boston was shooting terribly. If he had put up more than 15 points, if he had put up 25 points, they probably win that game. If he shoots a little more effectively from the field, they probably win that game. And we're having a much different discussion right now. It's 2-2 heading back to Boston instead of 3-1, right? And that makes this series look very different. But Kyrie is off the board not only because he struggled at the beginning, but because he is on the losing team right now. And then we get to, I guess, what we might call our first real option, Derek White at number 5. And Derek White is at a plus 10,000 odds, and he's probably not going to win it. He's played solid. I know last game he didn't have his great game, but his greatest game, but nobody on the Celtics really did. Derek White has been a nice little piece to keep them alive. He's hit a bunch of clutch shots, especially down there in Game 3. I believe he hit a shot to stop the run when the Mavericks were on their 20-point comeback trail there to help put the game away. He's hit a lot of clutch shots in this series, but he hasn't quite lived up to that kind of expectation that you have for a Finals MVP player. Next on the list, and this is where we start to get to guys that you might say, maybe they do deserve it. At number 4 is Drew Holiday. And after Game 2, people were saying Drew Holiday does deserve it. He was at the top of a lot of people's boards. And now Drew Holiday isn't the kind of guy that's going to continue to go out there and wow you with his offensive play. His defense has been great this entire series, as it always is, but he's not filling up the stat sheet offensively. He's not dropping those 30-point games. He's not taking 25 shots a game. He's not the guy that's going to do that. That's just not his role in the offense, which is why he's down here at number 4 as the option. But Drew Holiday's a guy that I do believe should get a little bit of a good, legitimate, small amount of buzz for the Finals MVP, especially if he has a nice Game 5 here, right? And I think that's really what this comes down to. Assuming that the Celtics win Game 5 here, close out the series in Boston, whichever Boston player I think plays better tonight, if they win, is probably going home with that Finals MVP trophy. It's that kind of close of a race. But Drew Holiday, unless he goes out and he is the guy tonight, I don't think he will win it. But he should deserve to have a little bit of buzz. At number 3 on this list right now is Luka Doncic. And Luka Doncic is a plus 1,100. So, I mean, I've already had this conversation at the beginning. I don't think a losing team's player should get the MVP. I do understand why people say it might be Luka, because if you're taking everything out of consideration, every context out of consideration, Luka Doncic is the best player in these finals, right? But that's not how this works. He hasn't been able to raise his team to victory on his own. And he needs a little bit of help. I don't blame him for that. He needs a little bit of help, but you can't be the most valuable player if you aren't the one that is propelling your team to victory. And that's just my position on it. I don't think Luka Doncic doesn't deserve it. I think objectively he's been the best player. But no, you can't give it to a team that loses this badly in the finals if they are to lose tonight. Even if they are to lose at all, I just can't really justify giving it to the losing team's player. And then we get to the real question between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And right now, Jaylen Brown is the favorite at minus 235. Jason Tatum is at plus 255. Jason Tatum had a nice little Game 3. He had one really nice game. But outside of that, he's been his typical Jason Tatum. He shot 35% from the field in his finals career. So through the 2 finals he's been, and that includes this one. I know that's going back a little far and not just talking about this, but that is like the worst, I believe, of qualifying players from the field, which is kind of insane. He has not been performing the way that Boston expects him to perform. Obviously not needs, because they've been winning games, and a lot of that comes down to how great of a team they are, how great of team chemistry they have together. But right now, Jaylen Brown is the favorite, and I think that for good reason, but I do want to throw one more name into the ring. Kristaps Porzingis. And this is contingent on Kristaps playing tonight, but there is a noticeable difference when Kristaps Porzingis is on the court and when Kristaps Porzingis is off the court of how effective the Mavericks are. We want to talk about how different they were on the road and at home, and as much as that might make a difference, those are also the trends with Kristaps playing. Now, Porzingis is still questionable for tonight. We don't know if he's playing or not. If he plays tonight, and I know people might disagree with this because Kristaps Porzingis has missed 2 games, but if he plays tonight, and he is that same kind of defensive force, offensive weapon that he has been in the first 2 games that he played, and that noticeable defensive difference that we saw in Games 3 and Game 4, if Kristaps Porzingis is able to go out there and make that impact, I truly think that Kristaps should win Finals MVP. And I know that might sound a little bit crazy again, because injuries are something that matter, and I know that's something that people take into consideration. But Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have both struggled from the field at times. They've both not been super effective, and between the two, I think Jaylen Brown. I mean, most people say Jaylen Brown has been the better player. He's been much more effective. We've talked about Jason Tatum's struggles from the field in the finals, not just this year, but in the last finals against the Warriors that he competed in. You know, this isn't this is a really interesting NBA Finals debate, right? But for the MVP, because so many players can win it, because there hasn't been that one guy that's just taken over for the Celtics. And I would argue that the guy that has done it the most effectively has been the most valuable, most impactful player for the Celtics when he's on the court, has been Kristaps Porzingis. Now, like I said, injuries do play a big role in this. And he's not in the top 6 because of injuries. I do very much understand that. But he still has my vote for Finals MVP if he plays tonight. Questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play again. They called that leg injury serious, and he has been going through a lot of injuries in this playoffs. He's missed a lot of the playoffs, but this isn't a playoffs MVP. This is a Finals MVP award. So I do believe that Kristaps Porzingis should win this award. Will he? Probably not. It's probably going to go to Jaylen Brown, if the trends continue. Again, I'm going off the theory that the Celtics win tonight. And if I'm doing that, really what this comes down to, since it's such a tight race, is who plays better tonight. And that's probably going to be the one that wins and raises that Finals MVP trophy. But I do think it should be Kristaps Porzingis. I just think he's been the most impactful player on the Celtics today in this series. But anyway, in the next segment, we are going to move off of basketball as Game 5 is tonight in almost exactly 3 hours. So get excited for that. We'll talk about more basketball tomorrow, regardless of what happens. We're going to move into the world of hockey. We're going to talk a little bit about Game 4 between the Oilers and the Panthers, a wild game. Nothing like I think anybody could have expected out of that game. We will talk a little bit about that coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.